Arthur Reed has been a beloved children's literature character for many decades. Written by Mark Brown, the book Arthur's Nose would be released in 1976, and would star an aardvark named Arthur, who felt embarrassed by the way his long nose looked. Since its release, there have been over 30 books published in the main Arthur picture book series, each one surrounding the titular character and his life as a third-grade student living with his family and spending time with his friends. The books were aimed towards early readers, with the stories being short in length and containing small, easy-to-read words. These books soon became a staple in elementary schools and homes with children everywhere. In 1994, development would begin for a PBS series based on the books. Arthur would begin airing on October 7, 1996, and would be one of the longest-running cartoons to this day. Arthur was a beloved classic for many, and one of my favorite shows growing up. Despite having cable as a child, there was something so captivating about Arthur and other PBS Kids series at the time, and I know many people who are younger, older, or the same age as me feel the same way. So today, I would like to look back on the show that many of us remember so fondly and see how it holds up. Is it really as good as we remember, or is it just nostalgia talking? How did the show age over the years? Without further ado, let's talk about Arthur. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with Arthur, either the books or the series, I'll give you a brief synopsis. The show stars an 8-year-old aardvark and the experiences of him, his friends, and his family living in Elwood City. That's really it. It's a tame slice of life. The show would focus on teaching social skills and how to navigate issues for the children watching. These issues could range from bullying, to your favorite television show being canceled, or friendship troubles, to more serious events, like someone you love getting diagnosed with cancer, dementia, or even passing away. The show was often praised for handling these topics with grace, but still putting them in a way that many young children could understand. I'm sure one of the number one things that stood out to you is that all the characters are animals. However, it's never really been clear to me exactly what animals some of them are supposed to be. As I mentioned earlier, Arthur and his family are all aardvarks. However, as you can see, many creative liberties were taken in their designs. I'm not gonna lie, I do find it amusing that the whole plot of the very first Arthur book was based off of Arthur finding solace and appreciation for his long nose that he was once ashamed of, only for the character to be redesigned and getting rid of the aardvark-like nose that he learned to appreciate about himself. I am not complaining though. I think this design is a lot more human-like, therefore making it a lot easier for children to connect with and relate to Arthur. On the opposite end, you have the Tibble twins. The Tibble twins are Arthur's younger sister DW's classmates, and they are just basically little terrors. In the show, the twins are these little gray animals. I could not tell you which animals they are supposed to resemble, but they are animals. The twins made their first appearance in the book Arthur Babysits, and in that book, they are human children, which I just think is super odd. Like, I could not imagine the show having these two random human children who aren't even the main characters just walking around among all these animals. On the topic of characters, you also have Arthur's family, which consists of his parents, his baby sister Kate, and his younger sister DW. How does one describe DW Reed?
These shells are neat! Ah! Help! An octopus is grabbing me! That's just kelp, DW. Kelp! Kelp!
Take any stereotypical younger sister from any children's media and multiply it by 1,000, and that pretty much is scratching the surface on what DW's character is. She is incredibly strong-willed, she knows what she wants, and she's a little instigator.
The paint isn't dry! Ew! Mommy, Arthur made my hands orange!
As someone who grew up as the older sibling, I could not stand DW. I hated that she always got her way. I hated that she never had any sort of consequences. However, as an adult, I can truly appreciate the writing that they had for this character. I think she has the funniest lines in the whole show, and I wouldn't have it any other way. After rewatching a few episodes, I have to say my new least favorite character is Francine.
I think it might be good if maybe we read a poem while we played the instruments.
And no one would hear the poem over the music.
I cannot like her. She's so not enjoyable. Francine is like this sporty, assertive, hard-headed character. I like the episodes where she has a goal and she works hard and she leads the fight to fight for what she believes in. However, there are so many episodes where she's just mean. If there is any episode where a character gets bullied or someone ends up crying Francine is either leading the chase, or she's playing a huge part in whatever bullying is going on. I will say though, I think my favorite character in the show has to be Arthur's best friend, Buster. He's the loyal friend, he's the one you call when you need help, he's always helping everybody, he's always super kind, he's super enthusiastic, he just wants to help people. When he's not being gross, he also has some pretty interesting storylines revolving around his parents' divorce and his travels. I think the best written character was Binky. He started off as the typical bully character antagonizing the younger classmates. However, towards the end of the series, you discover so much about him and what he's into. He likes ballet, he's artistic. There's also a story arc where his family adopts a younger sister for him from China. As someone who was adopted, I thought it was cool that adoption was represented in the show. And then you have the brain, who's just there. He's the smart one of the group. I think he's supposed to be a bear or something. I don't have any strong feelings towards him either way. He's just kind of, he exists. He's smart. He helps the gang get out of their troubles because he knows what he's talking about. Scientifically, not really socially all the time. Upon rewatching some of the episodes of the series for this video, I can safely say I like it just as much now as I did growing up. Not only did it bring me back a sense of comfort and nostalgia, but I also forgot how truly funny and well written this show is. I know a lot of people say that Arthur went down in quality over the years, which aside from the style change, which I agree that the stylistic change made towards the end of the series isn't very good, I do think it stayed pretty consistent all the way through. However, despite the high praise and ratings of the show over the years, its run was not without some controversy. Longtime viewers on my channel might remember that I have talked about controversial Arthur episodes in the past. That was half a decade ago. I've changed, my content's changed, my editing style has changed. I'm just a different person than I was back then. I hate that video, it's gross, and I can't watch it. So I'm going to be talking about some controversial Arthur episodes in this video. Thank you for understanding. The 2009 season 13 episode, The Great McGrady, centered around Lakewood Elementary School's lunch lady, Mrs. McGrady, getting diagnosed with cancer. Throughout the episode, the audience gets to see how differently each of the kids responds to the news, with Francine taking it the hardest. Desperate for finding a way to cope, Minky tells Francine to reach out to cyclist Lance Armstrong, who has beat cancer in the past. Throughout their talk, Francine is able to have a better understanding of cancer from the diagnosed person's point of view. I remember the time this episode aired, I was 8 years old, and my grandfather had recently passed away from cancer, and it really struck a chord with me. This episode was also highly praised when it came out for describing cancer in a way that young people could understand. Due to Lance Armstrong's 2012 doping scandal, The Great McGrady and 2 other episodes, Binky vs. Binky and Room to Ride, will be pulled from circulation. However, The Great McGrady would be remade in 2021 in the kind of new animation style, and word for word it's exactly the same, except rather than seeking out help from Lance Armstrong, Francine seeks out advice from Uncle Slam, who is an in-universe wrestling character. The season 8 episode Bleep centered around DW, who, while in a china shop with her grandmother, hears an older kid use a swear word she's never heard before. It's never specified what the word is, and I think that's kind of the point. It's just censored out with a bleep sound effect, hence the title of the episode. The shock of hearing her son use this word caused the mother to drop the bowl. This leads DW to believe that the word must be some sort of magic word. This belief is only further confirmed when the Tibbles tell her the word can get grown-ups to do whatever you tell them to. This episode caused me so much anxiety as a kid. I was a huge rule follower, so seeing DW get caught swearing, which in my child mind is the worst thing you could possibly get caught doing, stressed me out. However, I found out that many parents also did not enjoy this episode. This episode had so many complaints written into PBS Kids about it, and to be honest, I don't really get it, because the whole moral of the episode is that words can hurt people. Watch what you say. I don't know, because you also don't hear any swearing, so I'm not entirely sure what the issue was, but if you agree with these parents, please let me know. Do you think this episode is a good episode for kids? The season 5 episode, Arthur's Big Hit, is arguably one of the most, if not the most, infamous episodes of the series. Arthur is trying to build a model plane, and throughout his time working on it, DW keeps bothering him, despite him asking her to leave her alone and not to touch it. One day, Arthur makes the mistake of leaving the plane unattended in his room, and DW throws it out the window in an attempt to make it fly, breaking it in the process. Naturally, this upsets Arthur, and he then, uncharacteristically, punches DW in the arm. Despite his friends telling him that he was in the wrong, Arthur doesn't believe that he was. It takes Binky punching him in the arm to realize, hey, maybe we don't hit people. As a kid, this episode pissed me off. Again, as an older sister, Arthur told DW so many times not to touch his plane. He spent so many weeks, so many hours working on this plane, and she kept touching it, and the parents were not stepping in and helping him. So when Arthur finally cracks, because you know, he's an 8-year-old kid and no adults are helping him, that's when his parents step in, but they don't talk to both of them, they just talk to him. However, as an adult, rewatching it, I still don't like this episode, but for different reasons. The morals are all kinds of messed up. First of all, why did they make Arthur the aggressor here? It's so out of character for him. He is usually the cool, calm, and collected one. It makes sense if it was like maybe Francine or Binky was the first one to hit, but they had Arthur do it, and I think that's super weird.
The next thing I knew, I was on the ground. It hurt and it was embarrassing.
Well, maybe that's how DW felt when you punched her.
Yeah, I guess I get it.
Why are we solving violence with violence? Why couldn't he have learned another way that hitting his sister was not helpful? Why couldn't have the parents apologize, being like, hey, we're sorry we didn't step in. However, don't hit people, especially people who are smaller than you. It's a weird example. I think this is one of the worst episodes of the series, hands down. This last episode was banned actually quite late into the show's run, and I think it's for a kind of unique reason. Season 5, Episode 3, It's a No-Brainer, surrounds Brain, who's having an identity crisis after losing to Buster in a mathathon. He gives up studies and tries to pursue comedy instead. In an attempt to get their friend back, the gang writes a bunch of unfinished math equations on loose pieces of paper and sends them blowing in the wind to Brain's direction.
I've got it! Newspaper!
Okay, camera looks a little different. My main camera died. I started charging it like an hour ago and it's still not working. I have switched to my phone. Hopefully it's not that distracting. Anyways, moving on. As a kid, I straight up did not get this joke. I didn't know what a noose was, let alone what it was used for. I saw this episode countless times, and each time I was just like, why did he draw a balloon upside down on a sheet of paper? As a kid, I did not understand it. Due to how out of place this joke was, this episode was pulled from circulation back in 2021 and hasn't aired since. Now moving from the worst of the series to the best, Arthur had great TV movies. There are 3 of them total, the first one being Arthur's Christmas, which aired in November of 2000. The movie follows the main cast through the holiday season. Arthur is hoping for a picture-perfect Christmas with snow. DW is hoping that Santa brings her the toy that she really wants. Buster is exhausted from his mother's stress during the season. And Francine is trying to communicate to Muffy that she can't attend her Christmas party because she's celebrating Hanukkah with her family that night. Despite this movie having a main focus on Christmas, I get props for talking about Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, which are 2 holidays that kids media doesn't really focus on. The next movie, titled It's Only Rock and Roll, aired in 2002, and it could not be more different than the first. This movie opens up with Muffy in the Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way music video. Francine calls them sellouts and states that if she were in a band, she would never sell out. This inspires her to create a band of her own. Despite the absolute weirdness of having the Backstreet Boys in an Arthur episode, I thought this movie was so much fun. I loved it as a kid. Now keep in mind, I first watched this episode probably around 2008, 2009-ish, and so I had no idea who the Backstreet Boys were when I was a kid. When they were popular, I was a literal infant, and by the time I was old enough to kind of know who they were just not nearly as popular as they were back then. And I remember thinking for the longest time, way longer than I should have, that the Backstreet Boys were just an in-universe band. Like the same way that Uncle Slam is an in-universe wrestling character. I just didn't think they existed in real life. I don't even remember when I found out that the Backstreet Boys were real. I just know it was way later than it should have been. The 2006 movie Arthur's Missing Pal is my least favorite of the bunch. In this movie, Arthur is too busy having the best water balloon fight in the world to feed his poor dog. He's begging and barking, throw him off or whatever. This results in him yelling at Pal. The main reason why I dislike this movie should be pretty obvious. It is butt ugly. These characters do not translate well in a 3D environment. There's no texture or anything. It just looks ugly. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, they couldn't even animate Arthur tucked in the sheets of his bed, which in my personal opinion is like the bare minimum. However, if you like this movie or you did like this movie as a child, that's great. Like I said, I love talking to people with different perspectives on TV shows and movies, so it's great that you got joy out of something that I did not. After 25 long seasons of Arthur, the show would come to an end on February 21st, 2022, with the episode All Grown Up. This episode revolves around the main cast trying to learn what their future might look like and who they may become. The episode ends with all the characters as adults. DW is a police officer, Muffy is campaigning to be mayor, Francine owns her own shoe company, and Binky is a weather reporter. It is then revealed at the end of the episode that Arthur is an author who writes children's books about events in his life. It's a really cute, quiet ending to a really cute, quiet show. I think anything more would have been almost too much, but this was a perfect mix of satisfying, but also not too sappy, if that makes sense. Arthur was and still is an absolutely amazing show for kids. There are a few things here and there that date it just a smidge, but for the most part, I think the show holds up really well. It's crazy how a show that felt so modern to me growing up can still capture that same feeling over 20 years later. I would even go as far as to say that Arthur is one of the greatest children's television shows of all time. I feel like any child of any age could watch and enjoy it for different reasons. Even adults who just want to slow down for a moment and relax could find enjoyment in the show. It's just fantastic overall. However, I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you watch Arthur growing up? If so, what was your favorite episode? Did you have a favorite character? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!